Like a blade, charts on fire, red and green like a funeral pyre. Discord screaming LFG, but my portfolio's haunting me. Spiked my coffee with regret. Last night I longed to break out bet. Now I'm broke, not broken yet. Just one more pump, I won't forget. Buy high, die huddling. The 10 brain dopamine's controlling. Ride the whale, get wrecked clean. This crypto dream's a guillotine. Fake guru with 1,000 subs showed me coins in shady clubs. Promised moons, Lambos and jets. Now I'm left with JPEGs and debts. Scalped my soul in a 5-minute chart. Market dumped and it ripped my heart. But I'll reload, I'll play to win, even if I lose it all again. Buy high, die huddling. Gas fees burn, but I keep rolling. Almost gone, greed's the king. This crypto dream's a punk rock thing. Time in hands with the crack in the glass. Risk it all, no brakes, full gas. Liquidation, call me sweet. Whisper welcome to defeat. No stop loss, no regrets. Code and chaos, no safety nets. Satoshi's ghost in my DMs told me to ape again and again. Buy high, die huddling. Gas fees burn, but I keep rolling. If I crash, at least I tried. In this wild west of blockchain rights. I'll be trading till the lights go out. Charts are noise, but I live for the sound. One candle spike, and I'm back in town. Crypto's a fight, and I'm 10 toes down.
What's up, guys? We might have a crazy opportunity for a short, or we might not. We'll see what happens. But we're pretty close to confirming it. How you guys doing? So we got Noah in the house. How you doing, Noah? We got Pluff, Coma, Manny, Brett, Sterling. How you doing, Sterling? We got Gear, Wagner, Max, Coma again, Dennis, John. How you guys doing? Kyle Nadians, yeah. All right. So let's get to it. We'll go through Bitcoin's price analysis here, and then we can take some requests on some altcoins. I do want to go over it pretty thoroughly because this opportunity could be an incredible one for people trying to get ahead, because we have, if we go to the daily first, like I posted this as a signal, well, not a proper signal just yet, just prepare for a signal if it confirms, because we already technically confirmed a daily SFP from this high with this candle right here, right? So we swept the high, and then we closed below the wick, and that's all it takes to confirm an SFP, right? With this candle right here. Now, the great thing about daily SFPs, if you look at them throughout history, you tend to have quite a bit of time. Like if you look at the last one we got from a high, this was when we were at 110K and we fell down below the valley area. I would, we just have a regular target, but in this case scenario, if we took this SFP right here, the target was here, right? Because that's when we had our most recent proper pullback. That's what you want to look for when you're targeting SFPs. Where's the most recent proper pullback? And this one was really a pretty wild pump too, right? And we exceeded past the target, and we came all the way down to like 77K during that time. This target, let me just undo what I just did there, suggests a move because we didn't have a proper pullback throughout this entire journey along the way up. Our target's way down here for this SFP. It does not mean that target has to be hit, but because we have tons of barriers along the way we got to watch out for. We have like an order block demand here. We have this previous high that we retested. We have this valley area high here at 19,200. Like, we got a lot of stuff in the way that could prevent us from coming down there. But that is technically the structural target for this SFP. And like I said before, one thing that's great about a daily SFP is you have lots of time to try to get in, and you can use lower time frame structure to confirm an entry. So you can have your scalp trade pretty much already be converted into a scenario that can become a swing trade, right? So I'm looking for two scenarios to occur because the invalidation point is right here, right? So if we break past this, we invalidate that daily SFP, and we're pretty darn close to it. So I remained patient, and I did not jump into the SFP short once it confirmed because of the local structure seemed still like it was going to be bullish, right? If you had this, we broke momentum pretty shortly after it confirmed, and we got the low time frame internal change character. We came up, and we're continuing up, and now we're at our golden pocket 786 supply zone here. If you pull a fib from this high to this low, you get this zone of interest. We so far are hitting our head off of it, which is a good sign to prepare for shorts. What I would like to see to make this thing even more picture perfect is for us to come up, kind of like how I drew it right here, right? For us to come up, create a higher high, sweep this internally, and then give us a change of character, jump into that. I will likely still use the daily SFP stop loss suggestion instead of using the internal strong high right here, just to give me more breathing room because I am wanting this to become a swing trade. So I want to have that kind of structural guard. If we shortly afterwards lose this momentum, I kind of want you to visualize these two trend lines here as basically liquidity lines, right? We stacked a lot of liquidity through here and here and here. We barely have taken it. We maybe had two scenarios where we kind of like took liquidity to pump up further, like right here we had one, and right here we had a good one. But other than that, we just kept adding and adding and adding and adding and adding along the way. So we have lots of reasoning to come down. But if this invalidates, we have lots of reason to continue to go up. So it's a big kind of like make it or break it moment. And if we look at the daily structure, again, like the daily momentum, the one that we see has held us up since 16,000, right? We drew a trend line from the bottom all the way up to here. We've been maintaining this momentum ever since. Like, it's been a long time holding this. 1,000 days. Normally, if you look at any other bull market in history, we just sprint to the upside. And it doesn't take us long to get up there and we get overheated. This time, we've had a lot of weird altcoin micro seasonality situations where we had rallies with alts because of all this consolidation. Retail has basically left the building from all this consolidation. And if you guys notice that this season has been really weird with altcoins and we haven't really had a true altcoin season yet, it's because of this crap. It's literally because of this stuff, right? People, we consolidate on all-time highs. Retail leaves, goes into alts, most likely gets slaughtered, and then we pump up again, rinse and repeat over and over again. At least that's what it's suggesting in the on-chain metrics, like what's been going on in the background. That retail has been leaving up Bitcoin into alts during each one of these consolidative phases. So we had like these little rallies between different sectors in the altcoin space, but never a true altcoin season yet. And I depend a lot on on-chain data to help determine when an altcoin season is going to occur. And the signs just haven't been there yet. But that's what I'm preparing for, guys. I'm preparing for like a really decent short. And we do have daily momentum. Sorry, I'll go back to the daily. We do have daily momentum kind of like blocking the target down here. If we went straight down from here today, imagine it's just a big fat red candle went straight down, like we'd be blocked by momentum. And that's very, very unlikely for us to see like Bitcoin correct like 10% like that these days. So if we had a gradual drop, the timing could be in confluence with a previous area of demand as we test this uptrending momentum. And that could be the end of the drop, right? That confluence could put a halt to it and we start going up from there. Assuming all of what we're trying to hope for here actually confirms the way we want it to. I'd be at least targeting this previous high to be retested. This would be our hopium target for a short like that, but we gotta stay grounded. I'll be looking at 19.2K first, then 17.8 second. If we don't have any reversal structure defining the end of that drop, then I'm just gonna hold it as long as I can. But yeah, the 15-minute time frame, we already had it confirmed on the daily, so we're using the 15-minute time frame to try to give us a better entry and all that stuff. You still technically should be risking to lose the same, but you could get yourself a better entry so you can put your margin better at work and you can give yourself a much, much better opportunity. Because imagine if we took this short around like here, right? Everything confirms. We get the bearish change of character. We put our stop loss right here. It's a 1.32% deviation of our entry. If we get to at least here, we at least get like a 1 to 3, right? To our primary bearish concern. And then after that, our next target would be like a 1 to 4 and so on and so forth. But I love it when you could use lower time frame structure like to coincide with the daily confirmation, because the opportunities, it doesn't happen very often where you can take a daily SFP and then dissect it in lower time frames and jump in based on that. So we should have decent follow through with this break if we confirm that bearish change of character. Okay. Going down would make sense since everyone's mom and dad thinks it's going to happen in October. Yeah, I was just talking to Max Maher about that, where like everyone's thinking October. So I still think that's likely could occur, right? We could hit at least our first barrier, bounce off this level again, and then go up, right? Doesn't mean it's game over for October. We started it pretty darn strong already. Kind of began in September, actually. If we go to, was it CoinGlass? We go to the, coinglass.com/today. We look at historical Octobers and how they performed. It's the median, the average is 20%, and we've gone through half that already. But it usually closes at an average of 20%, not just goes up 20%. You know what I mean? This isn't accounting for retracements and stuff like that too. But we only ever had 2 red Octobers. So if we came down 10% from where we are, it'd be pretty damn close to the SFP target and still be green for October. That, like I said before, the SFP measurable target is this low right here. 108.5, sorry. And delete that. So waiting for the 15-minute bearish change of character or the 15-minute sweep of this high. And if we get an SFP locally, I'll take it. If we get a bearish change of character here, I'll take it. We have really good confluences. Even though, like, internally, I feel like this is, like, a little bit weird to me to, like, short this. But all the signs tell me it's going to go down. And every time I ignore those signs, I kick myself. So I'm going to be listening to the market. I want to take this trade really badly. No. What about ETF inflow and everyone who FOMO in? Doesn't it push the price up? Yeah, but we have had a lot of price suppression right now. We do have some buy orders below us in the order books that coincide with what you're saying there, Maria. So I need to have the structural evidence to jumping into the short before jumping in. It's not really based on my opinion. I think that me internally feel like we're going to go up. So I need to have that structure to tell me that we're not, or it's, you know what I mean? It shouldn't be up to us. It's up to the market and how it paints the picture for us, and we jump in based on the picture it creates for us. So if it doesn't paint that picture, if we instead get like let's say, for example, a candle close above this wick, and we start running up from that break of structure, and we break past this, then we're wrong, right? We didn't take the trade, so we're safe. But if we do confirm the bearish structure and meets all of our confluences, or we get the SFP, then we take the trade based on the analysis, not based on our feelings, right? Okay. Macro level government is closed, but the markets have not yet reached to it. There's one thing that is kind of unique. Like we did have, the government did close before, and the last time Trump was in office, and it lasted about 35 days. And the average damage it caused to the GDP, to the valuation of the dollar, is about 0.2%, if I remember correctly, per day. So if the valuation of the US dollar keeps going down from the government being shut down, then that will have an inverse impact on Bitcoin's valuation, and that could cause it to go up organically even without buyers during that kind of time, right? So if we look at the DXY and see how it's behaving, yeah, it's been on a little bit of a drop. This is the 15-minute time frame, by the way, not the daily, so don't freak out. But yeah, we just had that bearish change of character here, roughly around the time Bitcoin had that bullish one. One sec here, wrong chart. Right here. This is all from a lesson, sorry. But yeah, here we had that bullish one as the DXY had the bearish drop. So everything's kind of inversely correlated to what the DXY is doing. So if the government shutdown keeps causing a devaluation, like Bitcoin should theoretically keep going up. So that's one thing that kind of goes against us in our idea for preparing for the short. But yeah, I'm just saying everything based on structure is saying we're going down. Emotionally, I feel like we're going to go up, but the structure is saying we're going to go down. But I'll listen to the data, I'll listen to the market structure more than I'll listen to how I feel. Kyle, on the short, what will be your risk and leverage? So, I get asked that question all the time. My risk is going to be consistent. My budget will always be the same. You might see me do some changes to my risk based on my confidence, but that's not something you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be consistent as possible. So if you risk to lose, if you have $1,000 account, you should be risking to lose $10 on this trade. If you have a $10,000 account, you should be risking to lose $100, or $100,000 account, $1,000 risk, and try to be consistent with that stop loss budget every single time, no matter the drawdown, right? And this is the drawdown. And the drawdown itself defines what kind of leverage you're allowed to use. So if you need to free up capital, use more leverage so you can do more trades, right? That's the purpose of leverage. It's not to amplify your account size, it's to free up your margin so you can do multiple trades simultaneously. People use it incorrectly to amplify their volume, to build their account faster. But when you lose trades doing that, you can wipe out your entire account. So this stop loss suggestion, let's say it's less than 1%, then you can use, if it's less than 1%, you could probably use about 100x leverage and still be fine doing this swing trade. If we have a stop loss around like 1%. I would suggest, yeah. Oh, sorry, over 1%. I usually use around like 10x leverage. And the trades like this. So if you want to know what I'm going to be using, it's probably going to be about 5 to 10x leverage. Because you could safely use that with this drawdown risk. And we're about to find out if we're going to get that local SFP in about 8 minutes, guys. And see if we can start this drop. So we need to sweep this high. Let's get the magnet tool out. There we go. Bitcoin is a vampire which feeds with the blood of all the innocent. Coma, that's so dark, but it's very true. Yeah, it goes after the liquidity. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat here. Going down would make sense since everyone's... Okay, we already talked about that. Ayo, bunch of bears up in this. Yeah. All right, we're about to see how is this candle going to perform here. Are we going to sweep this high, grab the liquidity and start our drop and get the change of character? Maybe get the SFP here. Or are we going to take the new high here? SFP that. We're about to find out if we're going to invalidate this idea or not. Because we have maybe 2 or 3 scenarios that could occur to help us confirm this big drop. Or if none of those scenarios confirmed, then we're just going to likely see consolidation above the high, the all-time high. And that consolidation will build structural support and help us with a reset for a continuation. Because right now, the daily RSI is at 73. We need consolidation to reset that. So anyone who uses like Market Cipher or any of the other oscillators to help them judge when to prepare for stuff to overheat, you're going to need consolidation in order for us to expect a potential proper pump up further. Because if we look at the candles right now, this is not a sustainable kind of pump. We had a very illiquid pump here. This one was pretty healthy regression trend, but we added so much liquidity below us, telling us that we're likely to come down. And if we do come down, I'm still bullish because we just flipped bullish here, right? If we close above here on the daily, at least we'll have a daily change of character. And then we can stay bullish so long as we stay above the new strong low. So I'm expecting that no matter what, we can still come down here and prepare for a run up. We can either consolidate here or consolidate above the high tightly right here and then continue. But yeah, right now, until then, we're going to see if we confirm the reversal. I want to jump into altcoin analysis with you guys, but right now we're kind of in a time-sensitive moment. Got 5 minutes left on this candle to confirm this potential local SFP. If I pull up our market structure indicator to make things easy mode for us, it should validate that too. So you can see we have an internal higher high on the indicator, internal SFP. So as long as we close below this wick, the internal SFP target isn't very dramatic. It just think of an SFP as something that attacks your strong low, and it can be the front run to a change of character. The change of character tells you to hold the trade longer, but you should always have your exit plan be right at the local low. 4 minutes left. Aren't ETFs over-the-counter transactions? They are, yes. But if they run out of supply for the over-the-counter transactions, what usually ends up happening with the ETF providers, with currently how things are going, is they're buying it from miners, the people that are minting and creating the tokens, right? Or coins. When they run out of that supply, then they have to buy from the exchanges, and then we'll have a massive supply shock. So miners are preventing the supply shock by selling through over-the-counter transactions to ETFs. So then they sell the ETFs to people in the stock market, right? To their clients. But it helps dramatically with the sell pressures that we normally get from miners. Miners are usually the ones that have the most amount of control over the market, but this time around, it's institutions. If we look at chain exposed, we look at the proof of this on chain. Secure address balances. Where is it? Find it under network metrics. Not supply issuance. Where is it? I'm blind to it right now. I look at this regularly, so I can't believe I can't find it. Let's see. Man. Supply and miner addresses. There we go. So you look at the supply and miner addresses, and normally, if you look at the last cycle here, for example, we run, when you see a large amount of supply in the miners' addresses, we normally start a bear market as they sell and stuff like that. But ever since the ETFs were released, right here is that peak. When Bitcoin hit, let's go to, we've got 2 minutes left on this candle. If we go to back in time, it's this moment when the Bitcoin ETFs were launched. And if you cross-reference that on this chart, is right here on January 10th, 9th area. We've been in a massive downtrend ever since because they are selling to ETF providers. But the moment they run out, or the moment they don't want to sell anymore to the ETF providers, then they start buying from the exchanges, and it causes a huge, crazy pump. I'm just waiting for that day, honestly. But they right now they have about 1.75 million tokens, or coins. Okay, going back to the 15-minute, just in case I don't want to miss out. 55 seconds left on this candle. We'll confirm this internal SFP. If you want higher odds on the SFP, you want to close below the body, right here. If it doesn't close below the body, then your odds will decrease of it hitting its target. Good start. I'm personally going to be taking the trade if we break the low after the, because I don't like trading internal SFPs. I'll be waiting for the break of the low, sacrificing some of my gains for security. Pluff saying, holy poop. B&B ripping. The karma train left before I packed my bags. Well, it depends on how you define. So if we look at karma, we are mitigating the supply here. Bitcoin confirmed the SFP, by the way, guys, the internal one. So the technical target of what just occurred is right here. Stop loss for this SFP would be this high. So we should be dropping from here to here. If you want to risk not getting the opportunity, you can try to hold between, try to buy between the confirmation and the invalidation point, but you won't always get that opportunity. It's not the daily time frame where you have a lot of time to prepare or look at structure. So you can look at the 3-minute structure to define whether or not you think you'll get it. And based on this, we have an engulfing response. So you might not get it. Like a bearish engulfing response right here. right, now we go down. Let's see how we go. Could be testing these body highs. As we breach through it, then we'll likely come all the way down to here. We don't need this picture anymore. It's already kind of drawn it for us. We just got to wait for it to confirm the change of characters, what I'm looking for. And the risk to reward ratio on the SFP itself is probably not great. Well, it's not bad. It's a 1 to 2.72. Remind me, when it comes to fees on Bluefin, how impactful is it to enter and exit a futures trade with a limit versus market? It's a pretty big impact. You're usually saving about 3x on your fees. It depends on whether or not you're using, if you create an account without a discounted rate, but the average person fees on Bluefin with low volume is 0.06 for taker, and for maker it's 0.025 is the average, I believe, for maker. These can be reduced. Like I give you guys a 20% discount on fees, and it gets given back to you as USDT, like kind of the cashback system. But you can also reduce your fees by providing more volume, because you get volume discounts called like VIP fees and stuff. But this is the average. So there's a decent difference in fees. However, there's also a decent difference in opportunity too. Market orders kind of like guarantee your entry. Limit orders do not. So you might not get tapped in before it goes down towards your target. So what I like to do with limit orders, let's say we confirm an SFP like this, but you don't like the risk to reward ratio. What you can do is you can put a limit order in the area where you would appreciate the risk to reward ratio, and then have your stop loss ready and save money on fees while you target the low. Nick Collins, how's it going? I'm doing great, man. Thank you. Bluefin doesn't work in US anymore. It still works. You just gotta, yeah, you should be using a VPN, but yeah, it still works. HRJ Trading, how you doing, man? All-time high means every single Bitcoin is in profit and somebody is going to take some profit. Yeah, so if we look at the metrics for that, go to Glassnode, and we go to like their home page, you can see that 99.9% of holders right now are in a profit. So you got it. You're 100% true there. But the type of holders that are in a profit right now are different than what we're usually used to. If we look at the on-chain data for that, relative unrealized profit and loss. Nope, sorry, relative unrealized profits chart. Like we're not in a state of conditioning to be overheated, because we have new investors in at these prices, these high prices. We keep getting more and more investors as we create these all-time highs, and old investors come out. So it's like we're getting people who are just barely in a profit. Compared to the last cycle, we just like skyrocketed. Almost everybody was an extreme amount of profits, and then we had a massive correction, right? In this case scenario, we're inching our way up. So we've been having basically new investors come in and kind of create a healthy reset. Yeah, I'm curious to see how we behave here. All right, we got the internal SFP. We'll see if we get the sweep of the low and the change of character. Then what I'll do is I'll set an alarm here so I can take your requests, guys, on altcoins, so I don't miss out on the short, because I do not want to miss out on the short. Okay, alarm. We'll do once per bar close. So I want a candle to close below this level for this alarm, and not just, oh, let's do only once. So that way I'm alerted to prepare once we tap this area and not potentially miss out on, I want to have like that extra time to repair my risk and stuff like that. So here, create an alarm. You put a message on here. We'll call it the chalk alarm. Get the change character. And then I'll put a pre-alarm over here. In case we run up. We'll do a crossing alarm here. All right, and we'll click OK. Only once as well. Sweet. Prepare your ears in case, because it's loud and annoying. And it does come through on your side too. So if we hear those crows cawing, then we know that alarm has been hit and we got to prepare for a potential trade. Okay. All right, so let's take a look. See what we have in the chat. Kyle, did you come across 4 token endorsed by CZ Magic number 4? 160th on the market cap. I have not come across that yet. If it's endorsed by CZ, it depends on what you mean by endorsed, because just a listing of Binance is not considered endorsement. But we can take a look at that today. As we have. Just want to make sure I got everyone's questions before we start taking out. Do you give signals in your private group? Yes, I do. Yep. What I'll do is, for the signals, is I will kind of get you prepared with my mentality, what I'm looking for, and then you'll get like a stop loss suggestion, a target suggestion, and where and when I'm entering and stuff like that. I'll normally tell you based on like a 15-minute candle to close beyond a certain key level. For example, this one. If you're looking for a change of character occurrence and we know the R&R is going to be worth it, then I'll just say wait for a candle to close below here, for example. And then I'll let everyone know that I entered. But it's not just me that gives signals in the community too. We have a whole team of people with different trading styles, which is pretty cool. Coma, thanks for the pulling up the assets there. Never sell your Bitcoin, borrow against it. I like that advice, Crypto Ace. Chainlink. Okay, let's take a look at Chainlink first. We got a couple people request that one. And I'm interested in knowing what Chainlink's up to today. Last time I looked at it was on the 3rd. So just before the weekend. Right now we're on the hourly time frame. We were preparing, looks like we were preparing for hitting our heads in this supply concern here from this consolidation. Looks like we did 3 times since we last looked at it. And we're there again. So additional confluence for Chainlink to drop alongside Bitcoin if our SFP trade does confirm. We have this high here that can be swept for an SFP. We have this high, and we have this high. But one thing to consider when you're trading SFPs, let's say we take this high and we sweep that area, and we close below it, and we confirm this swing failure pattern, then we have to be mindful of the fact that we're above full body closes, and that could block our ability to continue down as we retest them, and we could end up going up, right? So be mindful of how the candle closes with the SFP. If we swept this high and then we close below this area, I'd feel much more safe shorting that. The SFP target on the hourly at least would be way down here. So you'd have a really good measurable target. And if you're worried about confluences that can prevent that from going down further, let me just fix that. This is not in proper alignment. We can pull our own fixed range here, from here to here. We can watch the point of control along the way down. and the previous value area high confluence are kind of stacked here. If you look at the 15-minute structure, we just have to watch this area along the way down. So yeah, Chainlink looks like it is kind of working alongside Bitcoin's structure. So if Bitcoin does confirm the SFP, there's a lot of pairing liquidity with Chainlink. When they created Chainlink a long time ago, they used Bitcoin as their like primary liquidity. So as Bitcoin goes up, Chainlink gets carried up with it. As Bitcoin goes down, Chainlink gets carried down with it. So if Chainlink confirms a bearish change of character or a bearish SFP, you want Bitcoin to be agreeing with that structurally. So I wouldn't jump in on a long or a short with Chainlink without Bitcoin kind of like confirming the same kind of behavior. But we're at that state where they're both in confluence of being in a bearish zone, right? So that's kind of cool. If we end up breaking past this and we go up, it would most likely be a pretty violent pump. We have like a previous valley area low here that's relatively small that could influence the price action, right? But that would be a good start to a run up if we break past this area, get a break of structure to validate acceptance into that valley area, and then get a rotation up to that little mini target here. But it could be a good start of a domino effect to bring us up to this previous valley area low, which is pretty darn close to the bearish holder average. So if you look at the previous all-time high and where we currently are, we have a point of control here at $26.90 that we got to be mindful of that could plummet the price down, which is like almost in line with that previous valley area high here as well. And our market cap all-time high is at $35.55. So we're at a pretty big moment for Chainlink too. I believe Chainlink was just approved by Swift, by the way, over XRP. I think that's why I keep saying XRP by accident, if you guys have been catching me saying that. Because every time I think about Chainlink now, I'm thinking about that event where Swift kind of chose Chainlink over XRP, which I was kind of surprised about. Even though I'm a big holder of Chainlink, and I anticipate it for it to be like chosen by a lot of banks to create their own networks. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's what I'm preparing for Chainlink. If we get the sweep, bearish change of character, or SFP, prepare for a target of down here at the valley area low at $22. Right? While being mindful of the barriers along the way at $22.50. That is Chainlink. I like the confluence that Chainlink has, but personally, if you're taking both these trades, they would both lose if one of them lost. They would both win if one of them won. So pick the trade you feel like you're more comfortable trading in that kind of scenario. If you have like 5 trade setups in the crypto space and none of them have relative strength, like do their own kind of moves, then just pick one based on what makes you more comfortable or what aligns with all of your rules, or what gives you the least amount of barriers towards the target, stuff like that. Okay, so that's Chainlink. Okay, what's the next request? Was AVAX. And AVAX, September 29th was the last time we looked at it. Let's see how we're doing here. Crazy consolidation, nice. This is the 15-minute time frame. When we were last talking about it, we were talking about this being a measurable target at $32.27. Yep, that was September 26th when we defined. I don't know if it was December 26th when we defined the target, but when we broke here, that's what defined the target. We put a wick level here, so we were preparing for a potential bearish SFP to invalidate the move, but we got the break of structure instead, which is pretty cool. We can mark our fixed range volume profile here, from here to here. So we have some bearish confluence building up right now. Same kind of story as Chainlink in a sense. We are approaching a value area high. We have our uptrending momentum here. Right? So if we have two opportunities right in front of our face. We've got the bearish SFP here for any SFP traders. And we have the confluence of just hitting liquidity from up these local highs, coming up, get the higher high, establishing a new strong low. And if we break this point of control, I don't normally recommend trading near a point of control unless it breaks and you have like a good stop loss guard. But we have a very strong peaked volume node here. So if we break this volume node here, would most likely have a faster pace move down because of the volume gap, right? You can see, look at the price action. If I were to box this zone for us, like this, let me just send this to back. Let's change our border to white. Okay, you can see, like, look at the price action. We have these fast-paced moves up and down through this area, right? So if this confirms, we falling into that volume gap very shortly afterwards. We have the confluence of potentially breaking the VWAP, and I would personally be targeting the value area low at 29.85. So this would work well in confluence with what we're preparing for with Bitcoin if it confirms. But if we get a break of structure above this value area high instead and close above the wick instead of get an SFP off of it, then our next area of interest is up here where the supply zone is, where this measurable target would be hit for this double bottom. Like, we don't normally drag our feet like this to targets from double bottoms, but it definitely tests your patience, I'll tell you that. But yeah, this is definitely a spot you got to prepare for the confluence of a previous value area low, supply zone, and target here, because spot traders, when they hit their target, spot traders sell. So you see price action come down as a result to it. So I'll be looking around 32.18 if we get the bullish break of structure instead of the bearish SFP or the bearish change of character. Like based on the active price action for AVAX, if we got the SFP, it'd likely be here as our target. Unless we maintain this 2-candle pullback, then I'll be targeting here. So that is AVAX. I hope that helps you out. I do like this too. Like I like the positioning for AVAX, Chainlink, and Bitcoin right now. Okay. We can look at INJ and we can look at eGold as well. Just add it to the list. I just want to make sure I get to everyone in order in which they asked. Okay. So I'm just trying to look through the list here. So we looked at Chainlink, we looked at AVAX, we looked at Bitcoin. Now let's look at, was it CRO was the next request. I could open that. I don't know if we have a CRO chart yet. Oh, we don't. Okay. But that's okay. We have our alarm set for Bitcoin, so we can come back to it quick. Let's go to it on OKX, I believe is what we usually look at. Okay. So last time we looked at CRO, we were looking at this downtrending momentum. We just hit like this daily broadening wedge resistance. It's pretty intense broadening wedge. The biggest I think I've seen in my life, in my trading career. This is a 1,015-day broadening wedge. It's ascending. They historically break to the downside, but depending on like market structure conditioning, it doesn't have to. Like a lot of bullish news coming out with this asset. So we got break of the downtrending momentum. The target to the upside was here. I have a dotted line here. I'll look in the lower time frames to find out why I got that target. Okay, so We were looking for an SFP here to bring us down, right? Or we were looking for close above this area to bring us up. And if we got brought up, we have the double bottom measurable target of 22 cents. 22,339. And we hit that, we fell down. Normally when we hit measurable based targets for structure, we have a cool down phase from spot trader reactions. Because they buy, bring it into a pump, spot trader sell, bring it to a drop. We did sweep liquidity from this high simultaneously from here. We did get the internal change of character, which is great. So now it looks like we're building this Wyckoff model inverse head and shoulders behavior. The confirmation of the inverse head and shoulders comes from a full body close, preferably above the wick, but when you have steep wicks like this, sometimes I'll look at the limit sell orders in the order books. If I don't see anything crazy trying to front run an SFP or anything like that, then I'll take the body close above the high. We get our, where's our, there's our tool over here. Let's grab this just so you guys can see it in your mind for anyone who's new. Right? Our right shoulder here. So your goal is to try to front run the breaks of an inverse head and shoulder, because it's always awkward, especially if you're a range trader. It's always awkward trying to long off the highs, right? So you kind of want to front run the break of the highs in case things don't work out. You have an exit plan you can get out, right? So we have this double bottom structure forming here. We're breaking downtrending momentum internally, and similarly to how we prepare for a long here, we're having that occur here. If we break this neckline here, we'll be confirming the double bottom. The measurable target of this little guy suggests a move pretty much to the right shoulder's level up here. So it's just a small move up. One thing you can do about inverse head and shoulders is it's pretty, it didn't happen this time. This looks like the 382, but it's pretty common for us to retrace down to like the golden pocket 786 levels. But in this case, if we pull a fib from like the low to the high, yeah, we got to like that. We got to the equilibrium point. We got held up from the 50-day EMA a bit and the previous value area high confluence. So we had that confluence alongside the equilibrium point. Could have been a good potential long opportunity to front run the double bottom break, but the double bottom break is what you would, it's like a domino effect, right? You could front run this through here, or you could front run the double bottom, the inverse head and shoulders through this double bottom to bring us up to here. And then what you want to look for after the fact is that brick structure support bounce to bring us up. The measurable target for this inverse head and shoulders is pretty intense, but CRO is a pretty intense asset when it comes to its moves. And it suggests a move up to 27 cents, which from the confirmation level is about a 21% pump. That's why I was saying pretty intense, because they have steep moves, really, really steep moves, and normally results to harsh corrections because of it. All right, so that's CRO. I hope that helps you out. It does oppose against our idea of preparing for short with Bitcoin. This would be good confluence to Bitcoin confirming support off the previous all-time high instead of sweeping it and giving us another local SFP. So if we get like a break of structure above Bitcoin, this could be a good trade to follow alongside that move. I'll be watching out for like this previous value area low. We have an order block, a 4-hour order block right here too. So we have some confluence to say that we might get rejected at 25.8. So just watch out for that. Set an alarm on every area that you have concerns with. So if you see like an opposing change of character, you can use that structural warning to tell you to take some profits. Okay, so that's CRO. It's looking bullish while everything else is looking like it's preparing for a bearish move. But Bitcoin's in a state right now where all the bearish moves could be invalidated so quickly. Let's go back to Bitcoin. Yeah, all we need is a candle to close, a full body close above here to invalidate this massive drop idea. Okay. Can we look at MYX? We could do that. Yeah. Thanks, Sterling. Okay, so I got. What am I? A piece of meat? What's up, Brian? You don't call, you don't write? Bro, I write you almost daily, all right? Love you, man. So that's Brian. He gives signals in the community and does Monday calls to help everyone understand the market structure, when to prepare for a potential pump or dump, what kind of mindset you should prepare for the week, all that stuff. And he has his own YouTube channel too. You can click on that and follow him if you like. He does lives once in a while. Manny Box, would a new S&P of the current high lower the probability of hitting our target since the last drop after the first S&P wasn't too big as well? No, it wouldn't invalidate. It wouldn't give us lower probabilities. If anything, it would increase the probability because we have taken more liquidity from the highs, and it would increase the probability of us attacking the liquidity below us. So having an additional SFP here would actually, in my opinion, would increase the probability, not decrease it. Because it's common for us to have potential SFPs, right? If I draw this out. We did this in our back testing. So far we've found in our back testing with SFPs that you can actually increase your probability of not getting stopped out by over 25%. This is based on low sample size so far, but if you get a Fibonacci tool and you pull it from the wick high to the low like this, and you create a I'll screenshot the specific setup, but you can adjust your stop loss by 50% deviation from the wick high to the body. And if you put your stop loss here instead of right against the wick, you protect yourselves from liquidity sweeps. And that's what essentially what this would be right here is an SFP from the daily from over here. And this could be the liquidity sweep to try to knock people out from jumping in on it. So if we looked at the daily structure and we did the same kind of thing, what we're trying to do in the lower time frames is get in on that sweep potentially, right? So we won't really need that stop loss suggestion in this scenario. But if you just aped right into the SFP right here, and we use that retracement tool from here to the body, it would suggest if you want to increase your win rate by about 25% on SFPs, to put your stop loss right here, which is a pretty big stop loss in my suggestion. If you entered right on that candle, right on the SFP, and you put your stop loss there, like that's a drawdown of, I guess percentage-wise it's not that bad, it's 2.95%, but how that impacts your R&R is pretty dramatic, right? Because you'll be entering here on the short, stop loss right here, and if you're worried about this barrier, even though the target suggests a really good R&R, we got to stay grounded and think about the barriers. The R&R would be 1 to 4, but this would only be a 1 to 1.7 instead of a 1 to 3 or greater, depending on how we enter. If you guys want to screenshot this, we found out this information through back testing, but if we want to screenshot the settings, this is it here. So you want to have a 0 level, a 1 level, and a 1.5 level because these are all based on percentage draw retracements. So this would suggest a 50% deviation right here to the highs. So you'd have to make sure you have to use it in a way where you're pulling from the wick to the body. Will either be a bearish S&P or not, right? From the wick to the body, and then it'll give you a great stop loss suggestion. But yeah, the community and I found that out on Wednesday during our last back testing call. Okay, so next request was ZEC. So internal SFP is working out so far. Let me just draw a pathing tool. From here to here. All right, let's go to ZEC, right? Yeah. So open, I don't know if we have a ZEC chart. Is it Zcash, right? Zcash loves to wreck people. All right, look at that. They had an SFP2 on the 15-minute. Looks like they have some relative weakness. They're kind of like starting their drop already. The SFP target's pretty low too. From here to here. Because you want to have, to define your SFP target, you need to have 2 consecutive candles pulling back. Right? So if we saw 2 consecutive candles here pulling back, then this would be our target. You'd still be mindful of this because we had an order block created like right here, and the VWAP as well. But yeah, this is the technical target right here for Zcash. And it's already started that drop. We had a legacy SFP, not a local one. Let's zoom out and see where it's at, though. We have a previous point of control here. I wonder what that's from. We had a double bottom target from our last time we spoke about it. We reached beyond that. Oh, here we go. Well, we broke into this valley area. A pretty darn, yeah, that's a pretty darn important one too. We got our head hit at the POC, which is your first bearish concern when you get acceptance into a valley area. Will always be the SFP or supply concern, like a structural supply concern. So if we break and we come down, I'll be looking for looking at the local price action here, of course. But if Bitcoin confirms what we're preparing for, like we'd have pretty good confidence of Bitcoin reaching that previous valley area high at 19,200 and Zcash reaching $95, which is the previous valley area low of the valley area that we're in right now. So if we were to draw this out, let me get my fib tool out here again, from here to here, and I adjust it. This whole area is a valley area zone from here, right? So we have decent confidence for a bounce at this previous valley area based on the structure and the valley area data. Just send this to back. Let me delete this now. So you'd want to look at the SFP target. If we break past that, then awesome. Then we can have a continuation, especially if we get beyond this previous point control and the little demand zone confluence. We have a little demand zone here too. That's the start. That's the reason why we likely had this bounce to begin with, right? So we have about 3 barriers before we can get back, rotate all the way back down here. The 3 barriers that I'm mostly concerned about that could prevent us from rotating all the way down is like this little guy here. Send it back. And this dude here. So if we had a bullish opposing change of character in any of these areas, it could be the end to the Zcash short. Or at least take some profits. Like lots of good confluence here for shorts. Okay, so that's Zcash. I hope that helps. I'm going to go back to Bitcoin, see how it's doing. Still on its path, its journey to the SFP2. Yeah. Great, coming in. Bitcoin looking to drop here. Yeah. Yeah, we do have some confluence here that could induce a bounce if we come down to this target. Like a liquidity grab. VWAP. Water block. But we'd have the induced like bearish change of character at that point. So we could take the bounce, try to get in on the retrace. And that could be the short that we could take to front run the daily SFP down. Okay, what we got next? Manny, would a new SFP of the current... Okay, we already answered that. Cool. I thought you had chain exposed subs. Can you look at the... Oh, for the option. Oh, yeah, I was only looked at chain exposed because it's easier for me to explain stuff. But if you want to look at Glassnode, yeah, 100%. Paid, $300 for it, so I better use it. But yeah, if there's any data in here you guys want to go over, I'm 100% down. I'm watching right now here's my favorite chart for Bitcoin. The market value to realized value chart. And this is what I'm going to use to define the all-time high for Bitcoin. When we're at the score of around 7. It's extremely, extremely similar to how the metrics are given to us from the unrealized market, the relative unrealized profits and loss chart. So I'm going to be using this because I find it a little bit more refined, a little more accurate. So I'm going to be looking at when we get to the 7 level and the MV at RV Z-score here. That's what I'm going to be considering. The market's extremely overheated. Prepare for the actual bear market. And the bear market's likely going to last over a year. Especially if they raise corporate taxes. If they raise corporate taxes, I want you guys to prepare for one of the worst bear markets in your life. If they end up doing that. Depending on how old you are. What you lived through. Or at least my life. Be the worst bear market I ever traded. Okay, Pengu was the next request. Render, Virtual Soul, APT, eGold, and INJ. All right, we got a lot to go through. And, oh yeah, and MYX for Manny Box there. So Pengu. I doubt we have a Pengu chart, but I know David probably does. That guy's been killing it with that asset. So Pengu. This is not one I have ever traded. But we look at it so often now. So we broke down trending momentum right here. We have the inverse head and shoulders behavior down here to help guide us into a long. That's insanely good confluence if anyone took that trade. The 50-day EMA, bounce off a previous point of control, target the value area high. The measurable target for the inverse head and shoulders looks like it is the value area high. You trade it to here confidently, extremely confidently, because like that break of the inverse head and shoulders, if you guys are able to see it, we had the break, a pullback, then a higher high. So a stop loss right here, trade it to here. And that's picture perfect. That's great confluence. You'd be mindful of the liquidity resting above here and the order blocks, 15-minute and 30-minute order blocks here. Right below that, but we busted right through it. So in that scenario, I would set an alarm for that, but yeah, we ended up breaking right through it. Now we are at the value area high again, the previous value area high. Let's zoom out, see where it came from. Get our fib tool out here to here. Zoom out on the daily. Okay, it came from this demand zone that we created. When we had this impulse move up, base, impulse move up, we established a potential range support that you prepare for if you had an opposing change of character. We didn't have an opposing change of character on the daily at least, but we did have a double top, which is the next best thing, honestly. Descending double top, failure to create a higher high. At that point, you'll be looking at this as your range support. And we just recently deviated below that value area. Created a daily order block. And now we're kind of getting squeezed between the 200-day EMA and the 50-day EMA. And we're trying to break through it to target these highs again. We zoom in. I got to do some adjustments because these have been mitigated. So let's change this up a bit. we have, this is our new zone of interest for potential corrections. We can delete this. We can pull a fib from the high to this low. From here to here. Adjust it to full precision levels. There we go. Delete that. And we have our golden pocket within this zone. So we have decent confluence. I would suggest sometimes to refine your box zones to add additional confluence so you know where what's what. But in this case scenario, I wouldn't, because this low here, we had a little bit of a front run correction to it. So if we come up and tap, like say we grab this liquidity from this high and we tap into this, we're likely going to have hit our head and come down. So this is the area of interest that I would watch out for. It's at 0.034237. Just mark your wick highs. Magnet tool, cling it, and then there we go. Go to the 15-minute. Not saying that we'll SFP this, but we could. The only thing that could kind of invalidate this, like I could see, since we just hit a 30-minute order block, it does look like we hit a golden pocket too. Yeah, we hit the golden pocket too. Bitcoin could drag Pengu down like now instead of us being able to reach these highs again. So we did have that bearish SFP on just recently on Bitcoin to help drag things down a bit. So I'll just mark this as a box zone here. We kind of want to breach it. To invalidate it. We don't have any structure that I would take a short on yet. Even though we have all that bearish confluence here, I need to have at least a two candle pullback, higher high, change character, and I'll take that short. All right, send it back. Okay. Let's go back to Bitcoin. All right, we're still dragging our feet down to the low here. Can we check Cardano? Yep, we can do that too. Actually, I want to check Cardano now because I did recently buy it. And I want to see what kind of, if this could be a good opportunity to sell it for rebuy again. Cardano is at its supply zone too. We mitigated the whole thing right here though. So really what we're looking at is a retest of these highs. This little supply concern here. Nothing to do with this zone anymore. If we zoom out a bit, we can see where it came from. This was the supply barrier here that we were worried about. Like we bought down here. I think it was here actually. We bought the retest. But yeah, like we mitigate this whole area. So why we pay attention to this zone is for different reasons. So we have, like I said before, the 15-minute, we saw a good clear indication of supply concern. We have this wick level that we could SFP and then come down. And we didn't SFP this high. We have this consolidative state that we're above the value area high. Or we just hit the value area high, sorry. We got, what was it, triple distribution. When you see stuff like this, it normally means you have 3 zones of consolidation, 3 zones of interest, 3 areas that are competing for the POC, basically. It'll only take about, let's say, probably 4 hours of consolidation where we are to have the point of control convert from here to here. So just be mindful of that you should be looking at this like there's 3 points of control, not 1. So I would mark all these points of interest as potential local areas of support and not just the point of control itself. just in case it kind of messes with you. They're also great for confluence because when you take a short into a volume gap like this, you can take the breakout instead of the retest and know that it's more likely just to fall right down to the next volume shelf, because it reduces your chances of having that pullback retest when you close inside of a volume gap. You could back test the crap out of that, by the way, and prove me right if you like. All right, let's mark our value area high. Previous value high. I keep marking PVOC. There we go. Value area low. Got. All right. So we hit that value area high confluence. We got not a perfect tweezer reaction, but a bit of a tweezer reaction. What I'd like to see if you're looking for a short is, yeah, we are kind of started half it already. You got the pullback. Nice. You get the higher high. Preferably scoop the liquidity from this high. Maybe get an SFP from it. Right? If I draw a pathing tool, sweep the high, close below the low. If we get the SFP, then you could front run that close. And then just got to watch the local support. We do kind of have that demand behavior here where we consolidated, impulse move up. So we can just watch this as an area of interest. If we break below this, though, I can see it's falling right down to the POC very quickly. So if I draw another path from this break, bounce right down to here. Then you just watch it in stages, right? And if you get the opposing change of character here, you get out. If we have the break of structure down, you stay in, and then you target the next area of concern, which would be right here, 84.33, which would be a great opportunity for accumulation for spot traders, because if you sell at the high and you rebuy at the low, you get about 4.5% more Cardano for free, assuming you do it right, right? You don't get stopped out, then you might be rebuying and losing some Cardano. If you're just doing the futures trade, then it's all based on your risk to reward ratio. Get close to a 1 to 2 here. If we get the SFP, it'd be much better. You target the lows. But once you see that bearish change of character, like, see, this is a very, 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 very good example right beside us. Right when we came up, down, got the higher high, got the break of structure, close into the volume gap, fall right to the POC. You watch the POC barrier, and then you target the next one if you get the break of structure into it. So you're kind of looking for the exact same criteria here, but we have the opportunity of also getting a potential SFP to front run this, right? If we don't get the ability to front run it, then oh well, we'll still have the opportunity to potentially short on the change of character. We have broad momentum that you can watch just in case. Don't trust the momentum unless you look at the order books to see if there are buyers waiting. Based on the broad momentum, we have confluence of potential bounce at the POC. Just be mindful of that. Assuming the timing is right. If we drag our feet, then that timing will be off. And the confluence will kind of diminish. All right, cool. So that's Cardano. I hope that helps you out. That's the bearish case scenario. The bullish case scenario is it'll be harder to trade. You'd rather be holding a trade, not jumping into a new one. The bullish case scenario is we break up, get the break structure off the value area high, which is a big, big warning sign that we're going to be leaving the value area. If you look throughout here, now we got that break structure for the continuation. You need to have that break structure, and then you start targeting the next value area, which is right above our head, unfortunately. But if we get acceptance into it with the break structure as well, then you'd be starting to target the value area high way up here at 95.95. And Cardano moves insanely fast in this value area. If you look at it historically, we just whipsaw our way to the top, and then we fall. whipsaw, fall. Well, this isn't a whipsaw, but you know what I mean. Really fast move up, down each time. You kind of hope for that. If you're holding Cardano right now, that you would get that close in here so we can get that rotation to 95 cents. We do have confluence here for resistance at the POC at 92.13. But this would only occur if Bitcoin invalidated everything that we're preparing for right now. Let's save the charts for anyone who's looking at it. If anyone wants access to the charts that we've been talking about so far, go to the Discord, then type in exclamation point charts. Like this. And then you'll get a message with all my chart links in your DMs here. Okay. What's my top price for Cardano? I'm not very optimistic on Cardano compared to other assets. I do think that's possible for it to hit its all-time high again despite its inflation. The inflationary damage to Cardano has made it so that if you put the exact same amount of funds into Cardano today that was in it at the all-time high, the value would be around $2.13. So you got to be mindful of that. Being $2.13, you got to treat it like the all-time high. So I'd be happy if we just get there, honestly. Because that would mean we'd have equal amount of interest from the previous bull market. And if we get above that, then awesome. But that's what I'll be looking out for my macro target. It all depends on what the U.S. does with their reserves, right? Their strategic reserve. If they start accumulating Cardano, then this target is probably going to be, I'll probably be looking at around $5 or $6. But I'm not optimistic on Cardano in comparison to other assets like Solana. I only say that because like the development on Cardano is insanely slow, and the transactions per second is pretty bad compared to other networks. But I like that it's slowly becoming more and more decentralized. That's what I like about Cardano. How do you get this volume indicator? Oh, the volume. Are you talking about the fixed range volume profile? It's a. You have to have at least the essentials plan on TradingView. It's not a free one. I don't think. I could be wrong. A lot of volume-based indicators are taken away from people, or taken away from the free plan about 2 years ago. So it's under here where you'd find your long and short position tool, fixed range volume profile, if that's what you're talking about. Okay. So we looked at AVAX, close to breaking that neckline. We looked at Chainlink. Let's hit our zone of interest. We looked at Cardano. What else we got to look at here? Next request was, we looked at Zcash, CRO, AVAX, Chainlink, Pengu. All right, we're mostly caught up. Let's see, what's the next request here? Render, virtual, Solana. Okay. I got about 15 minutes left, guys, so I don't know what I want to prioritize out of all this. We can... Okay, so let's look at Solana. I'm just going to pick the ones that I feel like would give us the best opportunities out of the list that we've got, okay? I'll pick 3. So Solana I'll look at, Injective, and Render. All virtual too. Okay, we'll just look at the rest of the list. I'll try to rush through it without giving you guys like low quality TA. So let's do Render. It was next on the list. We have a Render chart. Last time we looked at was September 29th. It's 7 or 8 days ago. What are we looking at? The long? Yeah, we're looking at the long here. Last time we were talking about it, we had this massive double bottom structure. We broke down trending momentum. This massive red line is just a strong area of interest throughout historical price action of Render that I thought could be the problem that could prevent us from coming down to the value area low. Because I guess, sorry, I got hiccups. I was really hopeful that we'd come all the way down here for a rotation so we can come all the way back up to the value area high up here. If we zoom out on this bad boy here, we've been consolidating in this range for 248 days. So I was hopeful that we come down to the value area low for a long, but it does look like we might have barely. Did we sweep that? The low price is $3.23. Yeah, 3.237. And this was 3.239. So we did sweep it barely on this green candle. So we got, that's crazy. So that likely helped induce this pump. We got the bullish change of character as well when we broke this simultaneously. Got into the supply concern that I was worried about. We reached the top of it and we hit the target, which is great. Then we had this bearish opposing change of character that brought us back down to retest this high. And at least that's where I would be targeting if I was trading on that. I'd be watching this area. This is the 4-hour time frame, so there's a front run opportunity likely inside that doji. We are now at the local highs. We kind of built this potential like kind of inverse head and shoulders kind of behavior. I don't really trust this left shoulder, but we're seeing this, or we see this as well with CRO, right? We saw this with CRO, so we have that correlation between CRO and render. We have this downtrending resistance that's been holding us down since $5.52. So we're getting short squeezed on render, which means statistically we're more likely to break to the upside to grab all this liquidity along the way up. You can target these highs, but personally I'd be targeting the value area high because that's already an amazing move. In hopes that we get continuation, of course. All right, so we started the domino effect. We broke the downtrend momentum. We got the change of character. We just need to get above the point of control after we break this potential inverse head and shoulders. Retest the downtrending momentum and then come up the target here. That's more of a swing kind of trade environment, but based on everything that we're seeing today, so far things are working out to be bearish. So we might consolidate here a little longer. If we pull a fixed range volume profile from the start of this range to here, we're at the value high, triple distribution again. Crazy. We have confluence at the point of control here, where the supply this demand zone alongside here. So I would green box this area. So if we do get the short, you have to be very mindful of this area to potentially start coming against you. But look for the structural evidence. Don't just bail on your trade as soon as you get there. Unless you got the R&R that you want, then yeah, go for it. Right? No one ever got broke taking profits, especially if it's the proper risk-to-reward ratio. Did we just sweep this high? We did. So we got the SFP on this candle on the 15-minute time frame. Since that candle, would that technically be the target? That'd be weird. I think that would technically be the target. I would consider the target of the S&P already hit. But we got the lower low. We get the double top neckline here. If this breaks, then we'll be coming down to here. So you'd kind of already want to be in an existing short to front run this break because the risk to reward ratio to have an appropriate stop loss guard on this setup would be like basically a 1-to-1 or less. Yeah, it's like a 1-to-1. So out of all the assets that we looked at, render would not be one that I would trade based relative to the barriers, right? So just be mindful of that. But we have a macro vision of what we can prepare for. But short term, it just looks like it's going to come down and consolidate a little bit more, which is good for a reset to help us have a continuation. All right, so that's render. But yeah, like I said, this is, out of all the ones we looked at, this is like the one I wouldn't touch. Even if we know it's going to go down, doesn't mean you should take the trade. All right, so that's render. Catching up, what we have. Someone told you heard a prediction of 31K Bitcoin. That would be something. That would be insane. The legacy support is probably higher than that now. If you know what the legacy support level is. 31K target is just ridiculous. We would be in the opportunity zone. Like a massive, massive portion of people would be holding, even ETF providers will be holding Bitcoin at a loss if we got below 70K. That's when we would start seeing in the chain expose and the on-chain data would tell us that we're in like the overheated zone around that price. So I don't think 31K is happening. No. And if we look at the legacy support, let's go to the golden accumulation chart I got here. This is a 5-day chart that I use to help guide me into my decisions for macro trades. Yeah, 51K is the weekly 200 EMA. It's not happening. We have, no. Crazy targets people say. I bet it's all like clickbait stuff. I just saw, like the other day, I think it was yesterday, I saw someone post $1,000 target for XRP, not realizing that it would require like the combination of like even the entire US and Canada GDP into XRP wouldn't bring it to that target. It would bring it to, like if I put all of Bitcoin's market cap into XRP today, XRP would be worth $40. So I'll go to marketcapof.com. You select Bitcoin. I don't even know how I got to this rant. I'm sorry. But yeah. If you could put all of if XRP had the market cap of Bitcoin, it'd be worth $41.60. So just be careful of what people say to you on YouTube. Backtest the crap out of what they say. Do your research, because some people just come at you for the clicks, not caring about how it might impact you as an investor or a trader. It frustrates the crap out of me. And I know I'm just a little fish in terms of like influence over, the crypto community. But I kind of wish that the bigger guys that have like, 100,000 to maybe 1 million subscribers will be aware of what they're potentially doing to other people when they give you targets like that. Okay, what's next? We have a request for, I can't see the list. Where's the list? Okay, there it is. Okay, Solana. It's a virtual APT, eGold, INJ. Let's pull up Solana, the SFP champion. Since we're looking at SFPs right now for Bitcoin, let's see if Solana's giving us one too. Surprisingly not. No. We're at a previous point of control. This is the previous valley area that we're consolidating in right here. From here to here. This whole zone here. If we zoom out, we had a lot of influence over the price action here. I'll zoom out further, go to the 6 hour. It's supply zone right here. It's the start of it all. And that was a long time ago, but it helped us prepare for this short, especially when we lost momentum. And now we're back here again, fighting against the POC. The last time we broke right through the POC and used it as support. This time we broke right into the valley area and we're using it as resistance. We're awkwardly building like a high time frame inverse head and shoulders after a pump. I do want to let you know that an inverse head and shoulders targets are the most reliable in terms of hitting their measurable targets, right? But that reliability diminishes if it comes from a pump, right? If we come in from a pump, we do still stack liquidity above us, right? Giving us buy-side liquidity to help promote a pump. But it's not nearly as reliable as stacking a bunch of liquidity along the downside and then having like recovery structure like this, because we have existing liquidity here and we're stacking more here to help induce a move up. But coming in from a pump is less reliable. But the measurable target would bring us to the top side of this value area again. If we get a let's kind of align this better. There we go. Yeah, bring us up to here, 246.86. But if Bitcoin falls, we're likely going to see that happen and occur again with Solana. And I'll be looking for a move down to, well, we have this like regression trend internally right here. So at least target here. Be mindful of that 15-minute order block. But yeah, right here around $230.15 is where I'll be targeting. Our key level that we need to have broken to make that possible right now is right here. But that level could raise if we get the higher high. It could become here for that change of character. And still give us good confluence. This would come with better confluence if we broke this low instead, just because of the fact that we had the VWAP right there in our face. So if we wait for the candle to close below the VWAP, I feel like it would be a more appropriate short. Because if you short, let's say we short up here, you're going to be sweating about that thing along the way down. So you'd have to set an alarm for when we test this area if you front run the break of that VWAP. But overall, yeah, I'll be targeting here if we get the short bearish change of character. But right now it's right here. We want to have a full body close technically below this wick at 232.78. If your rules are met prior to that, then awesome. Then you can use this, what we spoke about today, as confluence. By then, we'd lose the momentum, break the VWAP, bearish change of character, and then it'll help you hold your trades. Okay. Right, pull back. We might be coming up for a higher high. Let's see what happens. All right, so let's go to virtual. Next request. So virtual. October 3rd was the last time we looked at it. Yeah, it looks like we're preparing for a correction here. It worked out. Didn't like the structure. Got a awkward tweezer. I only say it's awkward because just how it printed on screen. I would still take that tweezer every day, but yeah, I got tweezer reaction instead of a change of character. Tweezer trades are, I know traders that will only take these shorts if they see a candle close and then an engulfing candle like this, equal highs representing a likelihood of a strong sell wall in the order books. And they use the top of the tweezer as your invalidation point for the short. So that looks like it worked out. Congrats to anyone who may have taken that from our last live when we spoke about that. We have this demand zone here, right? So we can box this zone of interest. We've mitigated quite a bit of it, so we can kind of bring it down to that mitigation point, which would be right about, here's where I would just zone it. We could draw a fixed range volume profile from the start of that demand zone to where we currently are. We're at the active value area high. We're coming up to the 50-day EMA. If we break past this somehow, then we have this supply concern here to worry about that bring us down, similar to this one that helped weigh the price down this time. We also had the confluence of the value area high too, the previous value area high. So now we have the previous value area high and the active value area high being in sync with each other here. We could get a local SFP. We got a proper pullback for something like that. We are very close to confirming it on virtual. 3 minutes left. If we do get that SFP, the only thing we would need is for it to close below this wick right here, because we already swept it. And the target would be pretty boring. It just brings us right to here. But it could lead to a change of character to bring us down lower. we have a 30-minute and 15-minute order block here alongside with the point of control. Let's see what this point of control looks like. All right, really steep volume node. So like if we broke through this, we'd have a likelihood of a fast-paced move down to the next volume shelf at $1.12. So I would mark this as an area of interest. So if you do take a short for any reason, you have to be mindful of this potential barrier right here. So if you see that opposing change of character come against you and you're in a short, I would think about taking some profits for sure. If you get to break a structure instead, breaking through it, retest, then that tells you can hold your trade and potentially move your stop loss above the POC. Okay. All right. That is virtual. Let's zoom out a bit on it. Okay. Yeah. Good confluence for a continuation up. Okay. So we deviated a little bit below this demand zone because it's been fully mitigated by now. And we've tested this downtrending momentum, the buyer's momentum, right? This would be a time where you check the order books to see if there's any buyers. This would be a time where you check the order books to see if there's any sellers. I think if we do get that continuation, we'll have confluence to hit our head here, right, and come back down. But overall, this structure is pretty darn bullish, right? We stacked a lot of liquidity above us, right? And we've taken a lot from below us. So statistically, that's why falling wedges normally break to the upside. So I'm preparing for that potential move too. We have a large double bottom that you could use as a guide for that kind of trade, the 200-day EMA. So if you're late to the party, you could use a different form of strong low for your stop loss and still have really good R&R to the measurable target, which is the top up here. Just got to be mindful of the supply barriers along the way. We have one marked here, one at $1.79, and one marked at $1.55. And we have an order block, a 6-hour order block that starts, the floor is at $1.42. That's the macro vision. But yeah, micro vision though, I've been preparing for shorts alongside Bitcoin. Okay, going back to Bitcoin. Okay, APT was the next request. Aptos, Binance. Looks like we looked at this recently. I don't remember looking at it. It looks like we had this idea, this pathing idea. So we had this valley area high, valley area low. We had this demand zone created. So it looks like the last time we were talking, we were anticipating for it to come down, like test the 200-day and then come up to the value area high and then get rejected. And all that has happened so far. So now we're on our kind of way down. So we had relative weakness on APT, but that's only because we had crazy relative strength that brought us up here. So when you see assets that had crazy moves up, while everything else is kind of like sitting still, they're likely going to have a phase where they're going to go down while things might go up, right? Because they're overheated, so they have relative weakness. But overall, this thing is still extremely bullish in the macro vision. We had this like Wyckoff model, but this downtrending resistance here. We stacked a lot of liquidity above us. Our local resistance here is our primary target. Like if you took this any longs from here, or if you take any longs from here, this is the main target in hopes that we continue to the value area high. This range on APT is insanely reliable. It's pretty much been there since the dawn of its creation. 1,000-day old value area. We can update this to the current price action. Like we're bouncing off the current POC. We just mitigated this daily order block. We have downtrending momentum. Now we're in the hourly time frame. So you can watch the pace of this momentum. Yeah, we could come back down to retest the 200-day EMA. and have good confidence for longs if we have that bullish change of character and we target the highs again in hopes that we close above the highs. So we have that support bounce off of the support bounce off the 200-day EMA and potentially lead us up to the macro target up there around $6.80. But this is like this, assuming the scenario that Bitcoin's likely going to invalidate our current idea and Bitcoin starts running up to like new all-time highs and price discovery and stuff. So you kind of want to have the Bitcoin confidence to help carry this price up. I don't know what APT ties its liquidity to, though. It could be Ethereum. So if Ethereum goes up to help bring it up, then great. Bitcoin will have a chain influence on that. Bitcoin goes up, Ethereum goes up. Ethereum goes up, then APT might go up. And we see a really good example of that with Karma, because like its liquidity just keeps pumping and pumping and pumping. We're getting free liquidity because BNB keeps on pumping. Even though there are sellers right now selling their reflection rewards, we're going up because liquidity goes up and drives the valuation of the asset up. And that kind of stuff's in the course too. So if you guys are struggling with understanding that, you can look at the course for that. But yeah, looking great so far. We'll get our all-time high probably soon. 26.99, which is about 2x from here. We've already gone up 200% from the low, right? At 203, yeah. Cool. Okay, let's go back to Bitcoin and see our next request. See, go back to the 15-minute. Got a momentum candle. Could start 3 white knights. See what happens. Okay, what's the next request we got? Bonk is so strong. Bonk. I thought they were getting their butt kicked. Maybe they recovered a bit. The more you learn, the more you'll see everything as fraud. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. E-Gold was the next request, and Injective. All right, we're crushing it through these. E-Gold, what we got? I don't think we have an E-Gold chart. Let me just pull that up just in case. I don't remember the ticker for that. EGLD. I remember E-Gold being the craze. There we go. Binance. I'll look on Binance for that. I don't remember the last time I did TA on this thing. We zoom out on the daily first then. Jeez. Okay. E-Gold might have inflationary problems. I haven't done a market cap analysis on E-Gold before. I don't. Daily. Just remove some of this noise really quick. Demand zone. Broke through it. Jeez. It's not price discovery, but might as well call it that. Bit of a Wyckoff vibes, though. What's this remind me of? What did we just look at that looks just like this? APT. Yeah, it looks just like APT. Except APT right now, relative to this is right here. Right? So this is a cool thing you can do with assets is you can like look at their structure. If it looks identical, but one is leading against the other, it tells you where people's interests are. And especially if they're competitors, if they're like, if you see there's an asset that has more relative strength than the other, but they do pretty much the same thing in terms of their utility, it could be a good guide into telling you what is absorbing the most market shares against the other. So this e-gold has relative weakness against APT, for example. The measurable target, same as APT, is right here. We have to get past this neckline right here. We have to get past the 200-day EMA. So this is pretty much the phase that APT is at in comparison to e-gold. We got a little bit of a Wyckoff 5 here. Can mark our fixed range volume profile to help guide us from here to here. If we mitigated this, it would be included, but it's not. We're at the local point of control in confluence with the 50-day EMA. So we can drag our feet. Maybe we'll hit our head here. If we do come up, build that inverse head and shoulders posture, and bring us up to here. The measurable target for something like that would pretty much bring us to that, the value area high. That's right, hiccups again. Okay, let's zoom in on the 15-minute. Let's see what we have going on. We have our broad momentum here. We have the POC, like I said before, POC and 50-day EMA confluence. Crazy wick level rejections. Make sure you get your magnet tool out when you put these wicks on, these levels on. Make sure it's clung right to that price action so you don't lie to yourself into thinking that you might got an SFP when you didn't. Uptrending momentum here. Sometimes you got to turn off the magnet tool though. There we go. Got lots of liquidity structure below us. So yeah, same kind of story as what we're preparing for with Bitcoin. Potential sweep of the high. They bring us back down. If we get that bearish change of character and we lose momentum, I'd personally be targeting here while being mindful of this location here, where we had that, we have like a mitigated 30-minute OR block, but we barely tapped it, so I still want to keep my eye on it. Oh, I wouldn't say, yeah. We dipped down into a little bit, right to the equilibrium point. Just mark this whole zone, just in case. If we do get that retracement, I don't know where the high is going to be, but yeah, if we got the high around here, we'd have golden pocket confluence. That's all hypothetical. Right now, this is a key level that you want to be careful about. We have the VWAP. If broken, we'd have the confluence of a bearish change of character. And that could bring us down to the momentum. Watch this low and target down here. Where most of the liquidity kind of begins to end around here. At least locally. Bitcoin, what are you doing, man? Coming up. Sweeping that high again. Oh, my bad, sorry. Hey, if we come up and sweep this, I'll be so excited for a short. Because we could evolve our R&R dramatically. If you get a full body candle close here, then we could adjust our level from here to here. Algo. I might not have time for algo, man. I'm sorry. Maybe next time. Injective's the last request that I could do. INJ. Oh, we do have an INJ chart. Last time I looked at it was June 24th, though. I gotta close down some of these tabs before I start exploding my computer here. And then we'll do a review of all my favorite setups that we went through together. But Bitcoin's obviously going to be my main one. But there's some other ones that have really good confluence with Bitcoin structure alongside that. So last time we looked was in June. So we were looking for longs, looks like. Yeah, looking for longs. We want to break this key level. Just after we had this crazy short, this massive head and shoulders posture. That gave us a target of way down here, but we were, yeah, we've got to watch these levels here. That did really good. Now we broke this ascending triangle. I love the story of what goes on behind the background of ascending triangle. I don't know if you guys want to hear it, but here we got a potential like large. Looks like we had a liquidity inducement. So we had this head and shoulders posture. We built a lot of liquidity below here, but we didn't really go very far after we broke it. Not like this one, right? And we had coincidentally tapped into our like level that we were preparing for longs off of, but that's 100% coincidental. Built this double bottom, ascending double bottom. Ascending double bottoms are great for Fibonacci traders, but not for the ones that like to use market structure. Because like you normally tap into your golden pocket on your retracement before you confirm your break. And it looks like it has some relative strength against like E-Gold. Was it E-Gold? Oh, no, just we had other assets that were basically still fighting against the supply concern. But Injective broke through it, and now we're using it as support. If we fail up here and we come down and break this neckline, then we'll come back down here. This is a massive potential double top. And we have the 200-day EMA causing us problems. We have the 50-day EMA here too. If we manage to close above here, if we could consolidate with a break of structure and continuation up, then we could likely have a golden cross between the 50-day and the 200-day. Let me just triple confirm to make sure that this is synced to the daily. Yeah, that's synced to the daily. This one's okay, it's synced to the daily properly. How did it respond to a golden cross before? Okay, it was just a short-lived move. The problem with the golden cross, unless you're doing it on the daily, is like normally you can front run a lot of the moves on altcoin crosses. Okay, let's pull a fixed range volume profile from the start of this demand zone to where we currently are. Let's see where we're resting in terms of that. Okay, a POC supply zone confluence here. So we have to watch out for that if we're in any existing longs. Or you can prepare for potential shorts here too. So if we don't get it here, we're very likely to get it around here for a drop. In hopes that you just got to be careful because that 200-day, I hate trading near the 200-day and the 50-day because they can act as like, you have to treat them as barriers. A lot of algorithmic bots respond to them. So if we come up here, even though we're in a huge area of confluence in this area for shorts, around $14, we have to watch this as our potential floor for our targeting. A low and high time frame. And we get this internal golden pocket. Yeah, hit our internal golden pocket from the high to the low. You'd rather be pulling it from the low to the highs right now. And testing the retracements. So if we confirm this bearish change of character here, you then begin from a pull from here to this high and looking at the confluence of this little demand zone for potential longs. And you can refine it down to the golden pocket if you like. If you need that confluence as a part of your rules. We won't get the change of character if we break this neckline though. Just get the double top confirmation. I'm kind of hopeful that this thing goes higher before it comes down. Similar to Bitcoin, right? To give you that better R&R. Because I don't really like any of the short opportunities that could occur here. So if we break this neckline that came from a retest of these highs, really you're not really looking at anything great for shorts. Maybe these lows could be taken. Sorry. Let's grab the momentum. This is our broad momentum here. So yeah, what I'll be looking for injective is either the local SFP from this high or the bearish change of character in confluence of the break of the 200-day EMA, the POC here, right? You kind of want to have your change of character level to be roughly around here as we hit our head against this. We can't exactly choose how the structure would be given to us, but this is kind of what I'd be looking for. It's like a bearish opposing change of character here, but I want to have the confidence of breaking that 200-day if I decide to take a short. If we get that break of structure instead with a higher high and we break past the POC, then we can be going up to $14.62 next at the value area high. But that's injective. Not as clean as a price action as the other assets that we're looking at though. We just got to close above here. So we are not hitting that SFP, the internal SFP target. I didn't take it anyways. I'm looking for this move up here. Well, I gotta head out, guys. I'm super excited for this short. I'll be giving the signal and yeah, hopefully very soon. Based on the active momentum, it suggests that we should get the signal in about 3 hours or less. Yeah, about 3 hours or less for the SFP if we get the short opportunity. The R&R is gradually improving as we get closer and closer to these highs. We can adjust this from here to here now. This is my alarm for a bearish change of character. And this alarm is going to rotate every single time we get a 2-candle pullback in a higher high. I'll keep adjusting this from here to here. If you're not a member and you don't know how to prepare for this, be very, very careful. Make sure you check your risk to reward ratio. You check your confirmation. Wait for the change of character. If you don't know what change of character is, look up market structure. Learn as much as you can about it. It's your layer 1 to everything. I recommend market structure being the first thing you learn. Before you start using real funds, you gotta learn risk management. Okay. Coma talked about curve momentum on the 15-minute holding strong. Oh yeah, parabolic curves. Those things are fun to draw. Yeah, what Coma was talking about in the comments is this. So you can get a 3 anchored trend line like this. So you have 3 anchors. So it's very subjective to the person pulling it. But these help identify what's called a parabolic curve. They occur before potential big moves up or big moves down. I have only ever traded a break of 2 parabolic curves alongside the confluence of a change of character. But those 2 times were pretty friggin' incredible. So take care, Kyle. It was very informative as always. No problem, man. Thank you for watching, guys. All right, guys, I gotta head out. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, sharing. We're growing faster and faster with this channel. It's pretty cool. We're getting about 20 subscribers per live now. It's pretty nice. I hope this has been helping you guys out. Like, even if we don't get that trade in during the live, it's fun to go through the TA and help answering you guys any questions and stuff. If you're thinking about becoming a trader or you want to learn how to make an income trading, then I highly recommend joining the community. We have a promotion going on right now where you can use the code ATH and you'll get 50% off your first month. It represents all-time high. And or 20% off your yearly if you're already an existing member, if you want to make that commitment. It's completely up to you. All right, guys. You have a great day. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you on Wednesday on our next live. And on Friday, we have another giveaway for a $6,000 account. I thought it was $5,000, but Clyde Funding came back to me and they said $6,000. So an extra $1K given to you guys on Friday for the giveaway. So I'll see you guys on Wednesday, hopefully Friday, and trade